Hi everyone, welcome to this video dedicated to the MH370. A somewhat special video because it will be available in French and in English. Why? Because we are going to present a new search area defined by Patrick Blelly. I just made a video some months ago to talk about his investigation book, which has just been published in French only. You can watch it in French for this video on my YouTube channel. The link is in the description below. To introduce Patrick Blelly, he is a retired airline pilot who has done a remarkable investigative job on the MH370. I agree with many of his ideas, and in particular on the fact that further investigation on the captain is suitable. But Patrick didn't only investigate the captain. He also suggested a new search area. His book did not include all the technical aspects for the sake of simplification. This is why he has published his detailed technical study on the CAPTION website with the participation of Jean-Luc Marchand, who is an original member of the CAPTION team. Jean-Luc has a perfect knowledge of BTO and BFO satellite data, which allowed Patrick to check the validity of his trajectory with known data from the MH370. Patrick is the first person I met with whom I agreed on both his method and his assumptions. And as you will see, he offers a new angle with his expertise as an airline pilot. Another reason why I adhere to his area is that it leads right in the middle of the area I have recommended since 2016 in my first version of my book, which was published only in French. This is the area etched in green in this picture. I defined this area based on the areas overflown by research aircraft, the sea currents, and previously explored areas. Even today, I maintain this area is still relevant. It is about 80,000 square meters, kilometers square, which was too large for me to suggest it to the investigators. But the official area was based on the assumption which the investigators have always refused to make. Someone at the control at the end of the flight of the MH370. Indeed, I consider from the beginning that we cannot favor that there was no one piloting the aircraft at the end of the flight. During the first hour of the disappearance, we had a plane that had changed course several times, showing that someone was piloting it. Why wouldn't that also be valid at the end? On this point, with Patrick, we share the same analysis. But Patrick went even further than me. From its trajectory, which satisfied the BTO and BFO of Inmarsat, Patrick computed several descent profiles to estimate the distance that the plane may have traveled afterward. Its area is therefore much more precise, and it's located in the middle of mine. Currently, this study and the area have been proposed to the French BEA, which has received it favorably. It has been transmitted to the Australians and is currently being studied by the ATSB. We expect a response from them soon. It is much less media-friendly than Richard Godfrey. Patrick wanted to completely complete this study before we decide to send it to the BA and to talk about it publicly, what I do today. Our goal is to push to look for this location during the next search campaign, which should resume in 2023 or 2024. We are still awaiting clarification on this. I will therefore briefly present some aspects of this study here. The 22 pages document is available on CAPTION sites and is published in French and in English. The link is given in the description of this video below. It begins with a summary where Patrick explained the parameters he has taken, in particular for the consumption calculation, which he takes directly from the real Boeing 777 manual with the Rolls-Royce Trent 892 engines. So we have a precise computation with someone who knows how to use them because it was his job. The margins concerning the BTO and the BFO are within the margins retained by Inmarsat. As a result, Inmarsat can perfectly validate them, and Patrick brings in his study very detailed tables with all parameters calculated in collaboration with Jean-Luc Marchand to allow everyone to check his computations. Patrick took the last radar position as the starting point of his study, and it's not a coincidence. This is a precise time, and the Boeing report, published as an appendix of the final report, gives an indication of the fuel remaining at this time. But Patrick noticed that the Boeing charts in this report was in standard atmosphere. He therefore corrected it for the weather parameters of the day to refine the quantity of the fuel at this moment to start his computations. He calculated the remaining flight time for the Boeing chart, and he realized that this time corresponded to the time until the time of known fuel failure of the aircraft, and it will be for a speed of Mach 0.706 and an altitude of flight level 300. Patrick therefore considered this speed and this altitude for his trajectory. He then calculated each section of trajectory between each BTO cycle, and noted that by making this projection, the engine cutoff does occur between the 6th and the 7th arc. We therefore stick perfectly to the data because, let's remember, at the 6th arc, the plane had responded normally to the satellite, and at the 7th arc, after approximately 10 minutes later, we know that there was a power outage of the SATCOM approximately 1 minute before, which triggered the start of the APU. The SATCOM found itself powered up again and therefore automatically reconnected to the network. Anyway, that's the official explanation, and I totally agreed with it. But Patrick offers another interpretation of this SATCOM power cut, never suggested until today. By trying to think like a pilot who would like to ditch as efficiently as possible, he had to be able to extend full flaps. However, this is not possible without having at least one engine running or the APU running. Without APU, piloting the airplane without engines, with only the ram turbine, would have been very difficult. You should know that we are dealing with an aircraft with fly-by-wire controls. The ram turbine provides this emergency power, but does not provide power to all control surfaces. The aircraft is therefore easier to fly. However, to make a successful ditching, you must have an aircraft that is easy to fly. Exactly what Sully Sullenberger did on the Hudson. The APU allowed him to fly the plane efficiently. Without APU, he would certainly not have succeeded in such a ditching. What Patrick is suggesting is new. What if the pilot had started the APU before shutting down the last engine in order to have a functional APU at the time of the ditching? At first, when he presented this idea to me, I was skeptical because in this case, how to explain the loss of power of the SATCOM? Except that in fact, when the last engine was shut down manually or due to the lack of fuel, there would have been a very brief power failure before the APU was connected to the system to be powered, including the SATCOM, even if the APU was running before the engine shut up. So this possibility can be true. The pilot would then have tried to keep just enough fuel to supply the APU for the time remaining. This is an hypothesis that cannot currently be proven, but it is plausible. Patrick then proposed in his study two versions of the plane gliding. Presented in sectional view, he precisely details each moment of the end of the flight of the MH370 which he proposes, with the time scale at the top, because this must be correlated with Inmarsat data for the 7th arc, and the scale of the distance at the bottom to show the distance traveled in the two scenarios. We therefore obtain a minimum distance and a maximum distance beyond the 7th arc. And we are further than the area searched in previous underwater search campaigns. That's what I have been saying from the start. We have to look further, and mainly further south. In my opinion, the fact of having found nothing, considering that no one was at the control, opens the way perfectly to a change of vision for the end of the flight of the MH370. We must now consider that someone was piloting the plane at the end. We hope to succeed in changing the position of the Malaysian and the Australian authorities on this assumption. According to Patrick, given the resources of ocean infinity, its area would be covered in less than 10 days because it's only 10,000 square kilometers. Okay. Another element that Patrick points out is that the place where the French Pléiades satellite had detected objects is in perfect correspondence with the area he has defined. In conclusion, Patrick Blelly's work is, to date, the most credible I have seen. Not only do we agree on many things, and the relevance of his work associated with the skills of Jean-Luc Marchand makes his area perfectly credible. This is why we will do everything possible to push search in this sector. We are a modest group, a retired airline pilot, an air traffic controller, and a signal processing engineer. We do not pretend to know everything, but only to bring our knowledge and our skills in the search for the MH370. Our goal, find the airplane and ensure that the truth is known and that the families can finally mourn. We have the possibility of dismissing all conspiracy theories that we can hear on this affair. The truth must come first. Even if the scenario of a suicidal pilot does not satisfy everyone, we must explore this because, contrary to what some people think, it is perfectly viable regarding the elements we have. Before ending this video, I'm going to talk about our books. As they were only published in French, they are not so much known outside of France. My first book was published in 2017, but after out of stock, I made an update in 2019 to cover Ocean Infinity search campaign and take into account new official reports. So the second book is bigger, approximately 500 pages, and gives you a deep insight of every aspect of the MH370. I present the aircraft systems to investigate the possibility of a technical failure. I covered also radar data. For Inmarsat data, I deeply explain BTO and BFO to understand why it is so difficult to find the airplane. I covered the underwater search describing the assets and the method used to scan the ocean floor. I also investigated the debris and why I consider a ditching scenario is a viable possibility. My suggested area is also explained by steps, and I finished with 2 chapters dedicated to the lessons learned and all regulations made by ICAO for flight recorders and to improve the flight tracking. Patrick Blelly's book was published in 2022 and is not as detailed, but he explained in a simple manner many things that was not covered by journalists, and why he considers the captain is a more probable cause of the MH370 disappearance. So, my book can complement many aspects of his study if you want to have a deeper insight of some elements. Thanks for watching. Don't hesitate to comment and ask your question if I can reply. I will do it. Thank you. Bye bye.